I think everyone dreams of how wonderful Paris is. And so I was so excited. And I remember in the airplane when we were landing, I could see the Eiffel Tower. And I was just so happy. I was like, this is going to be so great. But then we got there and it was beautiful. And I was with a ton of missionaries. I was the only sister in my group. And there were probably like 20 other elders with me. And so, but it was so exciting being able to meet the mission president and his wife at the airport, and just seeing Paris. It was beautiful. And but we had to wait that night until we got our calls to where we would be going the next day. So I actually learned Spanish for 4 years in high school, which doesn't really mean much when you're in high school. I don't think I remembered anything, but it did help a little bit. But yeah, I just honestly, the MTC, you learn so much French, and it's great because you get in there and then like the second or third day you teach a lesson in French. I love the French language. I think it's beautiful. There's so many rules though, and it's very difficult. But once you get it, it's beautiful. I love the French language. So I had President Poznanski the first half of my mission, and then I had President Baba in the second half, and I loved them both so much. And I think at the end of my mission, we really focused a lot on conversion of us, of the missionaries, of course baptisms and all of those things. But my mission president would always say, if there's one person that is converted on your mission, make sure it's you. And then of course everyone else that you meet. But yeah, I think that was really neat, because you go on a mission to serve others, but you're really blessed for it in the end. So.
Arriving on the mission never actually hit me, because like when it came to leaving also, I didn't actually feel like I was leaving. I never really felt like I showed up. I remember when we showed up at the airport, we kind of got lost in the airport, which is kind of funny. And the president wasn't there, like where he said he'd be. I guess he was a little bit late. But the first day, I remember we went out, actually even on the airplane, we met a guy on the airplane that we had started talking to, and it turns out we don't think he was a member. Like the way he was talking, he's like kind of saying, oh, I'm not a member and stuff. But he had a son on a mission, and so he was interested in, what we were talking about, and we told him, yeah, like, I'm sure you know a little bit about the church if your son's on a mission, and this is what we're doing, same thing as him, but just in France. He respected it, and we talked to him a little bit. And then I remember when we got into the field, they picked us up, and then we went through, it's basically like a big metro. It's called an RER in Paris. It's like the Heartline, I guess you could say. And they gave us a Book of Mormon. They're like, go talk to someone. We were like, none of us speak French. Like, what are you talking about? But we went on the train, and like everybody was super scared, and there's me and my MTC companion and this other elder in my district. We were sitting by these two ladies, and then we eventually just started talking to them and just showed them this book. I'm like, this is what we do, and like just horrible French, but they loved it. They were super interested, and one of the ladies, she's like, hey, if you ever want to come over here and have beer sometime, you can. And we're like, oh, we actually don't drink. They're like, okay, well, at least come get some tea. And we're like, oh, we don't drink that either. But yeah, it was sweet. Like, even though within 9 weeks, at least for me, the 9 weeks that I was there, we were blessed with like the gift of tongues enough to be able to communicate our message, even if it was like me, Book of Mormon, give you in French. Like, I don't know, it was cool. I actually thought my president was a little bit racist when I found out who my trainer was. It was actually, so we walk into the room where your trainers are sitting on one side and then you're on the other. And there's this one kid in there, and when I looked at him, so judgmental, but I was like, he looks so prideful. I was like, I don't want to be his companion. And I've told him this, so it's okay. But, it turns out that he ended up being my companion, and he was the one other English-speaking Polynesian in the mission. And I thought that was funny how we both happened to be paired up. But I honestly know that he was supposed to be my trainer. Like, I learned so much from him. Like, he really set the course for my mission. Like, trainers are super important to me. And so it's cool. We got along super well. The language for me, honestly, I was really blessed. I remember my first night I was with him, like, talking to people. Like, he would start, the contacts in the street. Like, we would actually, that was the weird part. When we got home, he was like, "Okay, are you ready to go?" And I was just like, "Oh, we just do this." He's like, "Yeah, just leave your luggage. We'll unpack later. Let's go." And so we just walked outside, went into like a city center. Yeah, we just like went up to random people, and I was like, "Okay, like this is how we do it here." And I remember it was freezing. But the other thing is, I remember I had on this hat from before my mission, like one of those like trapper hats, and it was my lucky hat. And it was pretty sweet because we had some cool success. We got some numbers from some people who were interested, and he was like, "Wow, that was a really good night." But I remember, yeah, like he would start the contacts, and then at one point he was like, "Okay, you start now." And I was like, "I can't do that." And then I did, and like I started getting more used to being the one to start things. He's like, "Once you just don't understand, like I'll take over." And so, like my biggest lesson learned was, honestly, I learned a lot of humility because I'm a pretty independent person, but then having to rely on somebody else to like show me the ropes and stuff. And he was a super humble guy too. So, I mean, it wasn't hard to like listen to him, but that was probably the biggest one, is that, you know, you're going to need help. Yeah, I could understand a lot of what people were saying, but it was just came to the part of like repeating, you know, responding. So I remember there's often times where I would start off and be like, "Hi, we're missionaries, you know, blah, blah, blah." And then they would respond. I'd probably get maybe 3 or 4 sentences in after that. And then they would say something and I would just go and look at my trainer, and then he would take it from there. There's often times where people would ask me a question while they were talking and I had no idea they were talking to me. And then it was just like, huh? So, but for the most part, I could understand, I think, from what I remember. I was really excited to be there. And so I was just kind of ready to just take it head on. Like, don't get me wrong, I was so tired all the time. Like every mealtime, like I'd eat and then just pass out for like whatever minutes that we had left, and then he'd wake me up to go. But I don't think, like I said, it never really hit me. So there's never like a fear for me of like, oh man, like I'm on the other side of the world. Like it just never registered in my head. I just kind of felt like I was in another building in the MTC. I don't know.
When I first got to France, it was all kind of a haze because we were all excited getting off the airplane and everything, but we got off and we had all of our suitcases and it was freezing, and we were met by the mission president and the APs with Le Pain au Chocolat, which is a French pastry. They just said, "Okay, we're going to take your suitcases, we're going to give you a Book of Mormon, go hop on these subways and give it out." And so my companion and I were so excited, and we went there and we got in front of this real French person for the first time. We just kind of sat there and talked for a second, and we spoke literally no French, but we were able to talk to her and smile and give her the Book of Mormon and tell her that God loved her. And we ended up getting her number and giving it to the missionaries who were close to our area. And it was so exhilarating for us. We're like, this is the field, this is it. And it was like jumping into another world because nobody speaks English there. You can't understand anything. The only person you'll understand is your companion. And so you really have to force yourself to talk. And I think that's what I would say the first week is you just step into a world where you don't understand anything, but it's okay. So the first week, I'd say I didn't really know what to expect just because it's so new, but I just trusted my companion. And we had awesome experiences. We opened an area, it's called whitewashing, which means that missionaries weren't there before. And we just went and we started from scratch. We didn't have any investigators, but we had faith and we prayed a lot and we thanked Heavenly Father for our experiences. And I just remember this one instance when we invited somebody to be baptized. And I looked at my trainer and I'm like, this is real. I'm out of the MTC. It just kind of sank in for me that this is real and this is his work and he was using it. Okay, so France is divided into 2 missions. And the northern part of France is the Paris mission, where I was, and the southern part is Lyon. So the Paris mission extends all the way up to Belgium and Luxembourg a little bit, and then it just covers the northern part of France. And Paris is where the center is, and also Versailles is right next to Paris, where the mission home is. And it rains a lot there in France. Always carry an umbrella. They're getting a temple soon in Versailles, which is fun for France. It comes next year, I think, is what the members are preparing for, and that's also in Versailles, where the mission president is.